Our guest this week on Veterans Chronicles is Deloris Ruddock. She is a veteran of the Women's Army Corps in World War II, serving with the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion. And Ms. Ruddock, thank you very much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Where were you born and raised, ma'am?
I was born in Washington, D.C., raised in Washington, D.C., and that's about the size of it. I've lived in different parts of the country, but that was what I did. I was born and raised in Washington, D.C.
Tell me a little about your family.
Well, I don't know if it was that much. I had a sister 2 years younger than I. My dad and my mother, well, they divorced a little early, but however, and I was raised primarily with my father and my stepmother, so to speak. And that's about it. I went to elementary school and junior high school and high school in Washington, which at that time was rather prejudiced, so we lived in the northwest section and we stayed there for protection. And so it was just, we lived the life we were used to. That's about the size of it, really, yeah.
Was there any other military service in your family's history?
No.
Not before you.
My dad was called, but he had something wrong with his heart, and so he was never called to service. And so I took his place, so he says.
So how old were you on Pearl Harbor Day when Pearl Harbor was attacked, and what do you remember?
Honey, I don't remember a thing of Pearl Harbor. I remember that it was, but I couldn't tell you my age or anything about it because it was so far removed from where we were,
Sure.
Yeah.
You don't remember wanting to serve after hearing that news or anything?
Oh, no. No. For Pearl Harbor? No.
Yes.
That was not my reason for serving. Pearl Harbor was way out of my line. I went into the service because I couldn't go to the school that I wanted to go to after I graduated from high school. I had a particular school I wanted to go to, and there was an offer by a member of my family to help finance a college that she wanted me to go to. And I didn't want to go to that college. I knew where I wanted to go. So she would go with that.
Where'd you want to go?
I wanted to go to Tropagan School of Fashion in New York City. I was sort of an artist, so that went that way. So that was the end of that story.
What led you to join the service then?
Someone, after I could go to the school that I wanted to and would go to the college that she wanted me to go to, I was sort of laying around, and someone suggested to me, why don't you join the service? This was something fairly new. And I said, really? So my dad thought it was a no good idea. I was taking his place, so he signed the papers for me to join up. So I did.
And what happened then? Where did they send you?
Oh, well, I guess I, like always, went to training, basic training and that sort of thing. And so we went to the basic training, and let me see, how... the memory, I guess it was, what was it, Fort Worth? Fort who? Leavenworth.
Des Moines.
Des Moines, thank you. Fort Des Moines. And we went through the training there, and that was it. It was, you physical and climbing ropes and all that sort of thing. But anyway, we went through it, and we did a few marches and whatnot too, But when it came to the marching, I marched one time, and brother didn't do any more marching. I went to kitchen duty. I washed the dishes, did the laundry room, whatever. I didn't like marching.
That was better than marching?
Oh yeah, to me it was. I don't know about anybody else, but that was it. Oh, pretty much so. No big thing.
For someone who grew up in a city, what was it like to go out to Iowa?
You were so busy and so occupied with your training and your working and your people around you. There's no point of comparing the two, really, absolutely. Uh, and when I was in high school, we had a girls' academy, like the boys' academy, and I think I was uh, the major of my high school for a year. So we were used to marching and whatnot too, so that was about the size of it. I went along with the training program, no big thing.
What were the main things they trained you to do in handling the mail?
Well, in basic training, you didn't train that because that was not on the program at all. Nobody thought about that. No, that
You got to
was
sign
way
that
off
later.
base. You went to your basic training, and when you finish your basic training, you would be assigned to various areas to work. I was assigned to what was it, Des Moines. Was it Des Moines? Oklahoma, thank you. I have to have my gal there. Oklahoma, and I worked as a warehouse clerk for the soldiers' supplies that were being issued out. And so that's where I worked, and had a little problem with the lieutenant in charge, and I wasn't happy, and he had sort of a negative feeling towards me. So somehow or the other, I heard about, I was there over a year or so, and then I heard something about uh, going overseas, taking women overseas, to wax overseas. So I asked my superior officer if I could sign up to get away from this character. And he, he had the audacity to turn around and ask her not to let me go because he needed me. I said, no way, Jose. So I got out of there. And that's how I got to go overseas.
Tell me about England. What do you remember about Birmingham, England?
I remember Birmingham, England, very much so because not of the service work of that, but primarily because there was a family, a husband and wife, who invited me and another wife from America. You had families there that would invite the wax to their homes for dinner and whatnot. And this couple that that I went to, they were very gracious, and I think the I think the wife was American, and she married this Englishman, and so there was another young lady, myself, my friend, who would go to their house for dinner on Sundays. They would invite us almost every Sunday. We would have dinner at their house, and they were very, very gracious. So I remember them. I can't remember the name, but I remember them and always appreciated the fact that they offered that hospitality to us.
How would you describe the morale or the camaraderie among you and the other girls?
I guess it was human. I don't know what else. It was all right, whatever, any organization you are with, you have friends, you have special ones you deal with, and it depends upon your contact with them and how often, and the working situation and all. So, And truthfully speaking, I couldn't tell you the name of a living person, unfortunately. I met so many people in my life
Sure.
that names, they come and go.
Now, I heard that when you got to England, there was a 2-year backlog of mail. How much work did it take to start getting that mail out?
Well, they said that we got it out in record time. It took we did it in about 3 months.
Fantastic.
And they didn't expect it to be done for at least 6 months. But we did it because we were working 3 shifts a day, you know. So uh, that was it, and we got the mail out, sorted it out, and directed it to where it was supposed to go. Those soldiers who were deceased sent them back to the States or to the families. Those who were on duty mailed it to them. And so that's basically, what we did, along with laboratory duty, a little cookie duty, whatever. But we worked it, really, truly. So that was basically what we were there for, and we did it. So they said 3 months, and after that, sent us to France.
Was there a specific job that you had in the process of getting out the mail, or did they move you around to different jobs?
No, as I remember, you get the mail. You had a list, and you searched down. I couldn't tell you all the particulars because it's so long, but uh, as I remember, uh, it was like you just picked up the mail and you checked the name and you checked to see where he was, and you sorted it out as best you could. So, um, and of course, I was a I guess I was a private or PFC, so I didn't have the responsibility of finalizing it or really doing it. We just took it as we did it, So.
Deloris, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with more of your story on
Hey,
Veterans
hey,
Chronicles.
How about them apples?
Welcome back to Veterans Chronicles on the Radio America Network. I'm joined in studio today by Deloris Ruddock, veteran of the Women's Army Corps in World War II. She served with the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion. And just before the break, Deloris, we were talking about your job and how you and the other ladies got rid of a 2-year backlog of mail in half the time that was expected, 3 months instead of 6 months. I want to look at the bigger picture for a moment. You talked about the discrimination that you faced growing up in Washington, D.C. The city was known for its prejudice in some ways. What about in the service? Did you encounter the same thing, or was it different? What was it like for you?
Well, truthfully speaking, hey, when I finished my basic, I went to Oklahoma, where, as I said, Oklahoma was prejudiced. They were segregated. I remember, you in the service, you're not out in the street or bringing houses and that sort of thing and roaming around. But I remember one incident in Oklahoma, I wanted to buy some shoes, Oxfords, of course, and I went to this shoe store. And I walked in, and there weren't that many people in the store. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I walked in, and I took a seat, the first available seat. And I sat there, and I sat there, and I sat there. Finally, somebody came up, salesperson came up and said, "I'm sorry, but can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I want to buy a pair of shoes." She said, "Well, you're in the wrong position. You should be back there." I said, "Oh." So I said, "Okay." So I went in the back and bought the shoes. That was Oklahoma. I wasn't aware of it. I paid no attention, but that's it. Uh, and you take these things, and they had their feelings, and that was it. I had to obey it. no problem.
What about when you went overseas? Did you deal with much discrimination there?
No, not really. No, not really. Uh, this was the wartime and all, and we were sort of limited anyway in Birmingham, you know, and in France, we were in where we were billeted, and we sort of stayed together. I do remember when I was in, we were stationed in Paris, in one of the schools there, monastery in Paris, and I had about a 3 day little leave, you know, to give you, and so my my sidekick at that time and I decided we would stay in Paris and see Paris and go around through that. So we took our little time away from the troops and went around to see Paris as such. And that was it. No big thing.
I think going to Paris is pretty fun. Tell me about being stationed in France in general. How was that different in any way than when you were in England?
My dear, if my life depended on it, I couldn't tell you. I have no memories. All I know is that we worked, and that was it, okay? And I don't know. Life just went on, you know. You had the regular things, you know. You got up in the morning, you showered, you dressed, you stood reverently, you went to work. There were areas where you had to do chores, you know. You had kitchen duty sometimes. You had laboratory duty sometimes. And that was it. You didn't lounge around for nothing, you know what I'm saying? That was life in the Army.
Now, I know that most letters from soldiers were read by someone to make sure that they weren't giving any secrets to their family back home. Do you know anything about that? Was that part of your job at all?
I don't recall. I do not. I don't do. Truthfully speaking, I never even heard of it, tell you the truth.
Really?
Really?
Okay.
What do you know? I have, no.
Wasn't part of your job, sounds
It
like.
was not a part of my job. If it was, I have no idea. All I know is that we might have read the letters in a sense to see, well, who to send it to.
Sure.
Okay, you had to open it to find out who to send this letter to anyhow. So, especially those that were going back. So I'm not sure.
Oh, so you had to fill out the envelopes a lot of the time?
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh, that's a lot of work.
It's all in the part of, you know, sorting the mail
Sure.
and getting the mail to the soldiers, those that were deceased, to those back to the states, to the families. So whatever the routine was at that time, all I can tell you is that we did it. That's it.
Well, it's an amazing story, and we'll have more of it in just a moment.
Oh,
We're speaking with Deloris Ruddock, veteran of the Women's Army Corps in World War II. She served with the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion. I'm Greg Corombos. Veterans Chronicles will be right back. We are back on Veterans Chronicles. This is the Radio America Network. I'm Greg Corombos, honored to be joined in studio today by Deloris Ruddock, a veteran of the Women's Army Corps in World War II. She served with the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion, was stationed in both England and France. And ma'am, we just left off talking about, obviously, your work processing the mail. One of the things we've learned from every war, especially wars, World War II since then, is how important that connection was with home for soldiers when they were serving overseas. And you obviously played a critical role in helping them keep in touch with their loved ones. How important is that to you as you look back?
Well, it was very important, really and truly. You know, there's nothing like hearing from a loved one, and especially it would be to the families if you have someone overseas, and the idea that the soldiers are not, getting anything too. So it was very important that they have something from the family to know and realize they're there. Uh, I'm not too sure. I have no way of knowing. I assume that maybe they wrote families, but I don't know about that. Okay, but in all probability, they didn't. But the families wanted to let them know what was going on. So it was a big morale builder, really and truly, for a soldier to hear from a loved one. So, and that's why it was important. And the mayor backed up like that. That's hard. That would be hard, really.
Right, waiting for that letter, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard from World War II veterans who found out what you've done and were grateful for your service?
No. After we got back to the States, the war was sort of stopped, wasn't it? So therefore, they were busy getting themselves ready to be discharged and whatnot. So, and the male outfit was just over with. Period. That was the end of it. We got discharged. Bye bye. And that. So. And all these years, all of a sudden, whoa. That blows my mind. God and Moses. The only thing that I had to recall was the photo of my discharge, my Army service record, in my wallet. I had that in my wallet all these years.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I had, really. So, and of course, there's nothing else there, really and truly.
I can see your hat. Our radio listeners obviously can't, but it says no mail, low morale. We've already talked about that a little bit, but how much did that motivate you in getting that 2-year backlog done in 3 months and just going day after day after day?
I'm sure, because it was good. It was good when I got mail from home.
Sure.
Okay? And I wasn't on the battlefield, so surely being on the battlefield, not knowing one moment when it would be your last moment. Okay? So and I don't know how they regulated the mail to the soldiers on the battlefield. I have no way of knowing. But on my own, when I got mail from home, and I still have a couple of letters, believe it or not, okay? But so therefore, the guy that's on the front there, and not knowing from 1 minute to the next to get the piece of mail, and all the time that they didn't get it, that threw them also. But they had a lot to think about and worry about too, But that was the point of it. So be it, I don't know if anybody ever related to the 6888, soldiers related to the 6888 having received a letter from them or through them. I don't even know if that was ever acknowledged or not. And it really doesn't matter, really.
Well, we talked about the discrimination you experienced growing up and even while you were training, less so overseas. What was it like when you came home?
Well, it depends upon where you were. Okay?
Where were you?
When I came home, I came back to Washington. And like I said, to try to get to the school that I wanted to go to and all of that. I ended up going to the school that I wanted to go to in the beginning. The Army paid for it, okay? The Army paid for that, and then gave me a small subsistence fee. Okay, so I I guess I earned my tuition to the to the school that I wanted to go to, and ironically enough, it was 3 years, a 3-year course, and that was it, really.
Did you love it as much as you thought you would?
Well, ironically enough, I took a 3-year course, and by the time I got after when I graduated from the school, the field was so crowded that the only job that I could possibly get in that field would be to do pace-ups. It was a fashion designing school, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they had me doing pace-ups of other people's work. And I said, no way, Jose, it's not going to happen like that, okay? So I never did do any designing, employed as a designer. And that was it. And so I had to look for another job, another way of living.
What did you do?
I went to work at a bank, and I went to work in the bank in the stock room, like, you know, and I worked there, and eventually, through the years, I was with the bank for 26, 27 years. So I ended up, I was an officer on the platform. So that was my career.
It's quite a rise.
Oh, yeah.
So what job did you have when you retired? What was the?
I was an officer on the platform
Oh, okay, officer of the platform.
of the bank, yeah.
Wow. Here in Washington.
No, New York.
Oh, New York. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I lived in New York 30-some years, so that was it.
So once you went to school, you stayed there for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's interesting when you look at the cultural significance of World War II. It led to service opportunities for both women and African Americans. There was the integration of the armed forces shortly thereafter. You obviously took part in numerous ways, both as a woman and as an African American. What does it mean to you to have contributed in that way?
I never thought about it, to tell you the truth. It was just a way of living. It's a way of life, you know. This, this, this was my life. I had no other way. No. It was, you know, every day comes and you live that day. It could be good or it could be a setback, but you live it. It's your daily life. So I hope for the best.
You ever look back and think about the contribution you made?
No.
Not much?
Not really. Not really. No. That, you know, at my age, that's so much history.
It's over 70 years ago, yeah. 75 years
That's
ago.
an awful lot of history we're talking about. So I don't need to look back. That's why it's so difficult to look back, you know, because the mind doesn't retain all of that. You're too busy trying to live today.
You weren't thinking about the historical significance at the time, huh?
No. You live today, and tomorrow it's something else.
So does it surprise you, though, that your unit's getting some attention now?
I am shocked. You know, I lived all these years without this, you know what I'm saying? I far be it from me, but, you know, and considering the number of us that are still here, that's unbelievable to me, you know? We're talking about hundreds of women who were there and no longer here. Oh, whoa, now. You know, really. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
How many from your group are still with us?
Group? There were only 5 in the whole goddamn 800 women. So it's not a group.
Well, in your battalion.
but but the whole battalion, I mean, no, uh, that's it, really. I'm breathing. What can I tell you?
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's fantastic.
absolutely.
Well,
And I'm walking. That's another thing too. I'm happy.
You're in fantastic shape.
I'm happy. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're happy you're here. What about as you think about how America has changed over the past 75 years? particularly on equality.
On the who?
On equality. On race.
It all depends on where you are, what you're doing, and who you are. That's, we have so much going on in this country today, okay, that you can't really break it down, okay? And as I read the paper and I listen to the news, I can't fathom what this country has come to. So you have a lot of nationalities in this country as it is now. So it's just not the blacks and the whites. You have every nationality in the whole world here now, okay? So it is very difficult to put the finger to one as opposed to the other. No, we're all here together, and we better learn to live together. So that's all I can tell you.
Have you gotten to meet any of the other remaining members of your battalion?
Only when we had this group, and all the occasions, and of course they live in different parts of the world, and I didn't know them because we weren't probably in the same company. And but when we had the special occasions that I've been brought into over the past few months, they're all strangers, but we're all in the same boat. Okay, so that was it, really and truly. I was always amazed, and I shouldn't say it, but of the 5, I was the only one walking. So I'm great. So I'm grateful to believe me. But however, I bless them too. However, that's about the size of it.
Well, in instant kinship, though, right?
Huh?
An instant kinship, do you think?
No, not really.
No?
We're too far apart. We have different lives. And, when we were together over the past few occasions, it's been a pleasure, but our lifestyles and the work that we did, it varies, and we were just great and surprised that we were the only ones there, tell you the truth. So it was surprising, really.
Well, I know you haven't done you said you didn't do a tremendous amount of reflecting on your World War II experience, but the fact that your battalion is now getting more attention means it will be remembered. How do you hope it is remembered?
For the battalion that it was, the purpose it served, okay? It served the purpose. It helped the American soldiers to keep their morale and to keep them moving forward. And so we were called upon to do a job. We did the job. That's all you can ask. What else?
It's a wonderful response. It's a wonderful attitude towards your amazing service for our country and the fellow soldiers that were in the field during World War II. Deloris, it's been a true pleasure to have you in studio today. Thank you for your service and thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you, my dear. Pleasure. Absolutely. And I survived it, didn't I?
Deloris Ruddock is a veteran of the Women's Army Corps in World War II, serving with the 688 Central Postal Directory Battalion. I'm Greg Corumbus. This is Veterans Chronicles.